cleaning up and exporting. We are going to make our document ready to be used in sketchfab. So the first thing we'll do is look at the names of our objects to see if they are consistent, not only our objects but also our materials and our textures. Let's select the well. Oh, I can't select it because the overlays are still turned off. Let's turn that on. Pop. And now we can see what we have selected. Now let's use a smart way of naming these objects. And for that I have a page from Unreal and it's called Legacy Asset Naming Convention. I'll attach the link to this lecture. It's a legacy page, so the page is a bit older. It's from an old wiki. But the content is still extremely useful. When you export your objects and you import them again in a game engine like Unity or Unreal, you know what objects you have imported by looking at the object type in the name. So for example, here we have the objects by type and some are very Unreal specific, like Blueprint, but others are very useful. For example, SM underscore stands for static mesh, and a static mesh is the same as what we have in Blender, and there we name that a mesh. So every object in Blender could start with SM underscore, and that way you can recognize your imported meshes from Blender. So same goes for material. If we put an underscore in front of the material name, then we can recognize them again after an object is imported in Unreal. Most of them we won't use here, not at the moment, but for example T underscore is for texture, we used that before, remember? And that brings us also to the suffixes, like BC for base color. I got that suffix from here, from this document, from the Unreal Engine Assets Naming Convention. Or here mask is another one, underscore M. Okay, just so you know now, this is the asset naming convention. I'll attach it to this lecture so you can have a good look at it. Okay, let's continue. So let's first have a look at the object. So first we have a collection here. That doesn't really matter what it's named, that's fine. Then we have a grass particle. That's the main object we used for the grass particle system, but we won't export that at all, so we can hide it for now and don't have to rename it. Then we have the grass system. That's the floor in fact, so we can give that a better name. Let's call this F2 SM for static mesh underscore floor plane. Hit enter. Let's do it for grass particle as well, just to have it a little neater. SM underscore grass particle. Let's call the well SM underscore well. Next up is a collection again. We don't need to rename that. It's where the camera and light went into. We can even turn it off because we don't need that during exporting. Oh, and this last sun here is a point light that needs to go into the right collection. So let's drag it in the lights and camera collection. Plop. And then we also have an empty here. That's the one for the depth of field. We can also drag it in the lights and camera collection because it has everything to do with the camera. And the last collection is grass particles. That's where we have the grass particle object in this one. So let's put SM in front of that. Pom pom pom. And you know, let's put that also in the models collection, because why do we have an extra collection for that? Oh, I remember this because we needed to convert them and needed an extra folder because else we would make a mess of it. And that's all in the past, so let's now drag this SM grass particles into the models collection. And the grass particles collection can be deleted. So that looks very nice. We have a collection with models. And then we have a collection with lights and cameras that we don't use now, but we shouldn't delete because if you want to render again later, you'll need them again. Now let's go to the materials. Select the well first, because I have no idea what I'm looking at. Okay, so it's called material, and that needs a better name. Did we have something for that in the naming convention? Let's have a look. So let's go back to the Unreal naming convention document, scroll down. Indeed, M underscore for material. So the prefix is M underscore, and let's use that here. So select it here, double click, Shift M underscore well and enter. Correct. Now here below we have the name of the texture. It's called T underscore well 9 underscore BC dot PNG. That's the extension. The 9 is because we have about 9 textures made before, or 8. That's okay. We can just leave it in there. I don't think that's a real problem. But if you do, you can delete it. Now next is the grass. Let's do the naming of the grass. It's also called material 0.001. That's not good. Let's call it m_grass. And let's have a look if there's only one version available, because we also have the grass object where we made the particles from. And sometimes when you make particles or when you copy objects, it also copies the material and makes an extra version of that. Well, it only needs one version. Well, we seem to be using the same material here. You see there's only one of the grass material. There's no extra 0.002 or something like that. So that's good. We'll hide the grass particle again. Bloop. Gone. So we did the grass, correct? We did the well. Now let's do the floor. Material 0.002. Let's call it m_floor plane with 1p. And the texture is called t_floor bc for base color, correct? Oops, and I forgot to check the texture for the grass particle. Let's scroll down. t_grass_base color. Very well. So all the materials, textures and meshes now have the right name. Now I want to make sure that the particles that we made for the floor plane, that they are turned off, because if they're turned on and we would export them now, that would give all sorts of problems probably. So let's make sure it's off. Okay, now with everything correct, let's export this project. With Alt-A we can select everything, but there's another method of doing that, because we want to select everything in the models collection and not anything else. We can also right click on the models collection and then say select objects. That way we will not by mistake have anything else selected than that. The particle object will not be selected or exported with it because the view is turned off, and then you can't select it and also can't by accident export it as well. Now with it selected, press Ctrl J and that will join everything together, so it will become one mesh, you see. It's not necessary and it meshes up our names again, but it's just easier to work with in sketchfab. I go to File, Export, Export as FBX. Now let's see, where is my folder? Here. Okay. So you see we are not in the correct folder, so let's first, hey, we don't have an export folder yet, so let's first create an export folder, right click, new folder, click new folder here, or hover over this port and say I, or better press the I key and then type export, because this is our export folder. After creating it, we have to open it. And now let's first have a look at the settings here. Make it a little bit bigger and make sure that selected objects is selected and the rest is okay. Let's give it a better name than well last check and let's call it well sketchfab. Sketchfab, or any name you like. Underscore. Now let's save our document, give it a new name, save as. There is my window again, and let's call it, instead of well last check, sketchfab. That way we have a version where we have the meshes joined together and one where we have them separate. There's another way of getting this to sketchfab, and that is importing the complete Blender file. But more about that later. We're done in Blender for now. So, congratulations, you made an awesome model. Now let's make a nice presentation in sketchfab. See you in the next lecture. Bye bye.